And we've done it in communities where it makes sense to make major capital expenditures. And right now, there's a lot of people that think the United States of America is not a place to do that, or they think the state of Illinois is not a place to do that, or they think the 12th Congressional District is not a place to do that. And we need to have people that understand the policies that encourage people to do those things.
This
And
gentleman
final
here has a
question is,
We've got a lot of, go ahead with your question. You had a question?
Yes. Yes, sir. I read on your website that you support reforming both Social Security and Medicare, but I was wondering if you could detail that a little bit. I understand you have, that's a big question for a limited amount of time.
Yeah, sure. So, you know, it's like these debates where it's like, what do you think about Syria? 60 seconds, you know?
I'll give you about 30.
Yeah, all right, so real fast, look. Yeah, real fast, look, these aren't Republican problems, these aren't Democrat problems, these are math problems, folks. This year, the United States government's gonna spend $3.5 trillion. If you take the major entitlement programs and interest on our debt, that's $2.5 trillion. That leaves, for the math majors here, $1 trillion for everything else the federal government does. Infrastructure spending, education spending, the military, the FBI, CIA, you name it, $1 trillion. What's our deficit this year? No, not the debt, the deficit. Yeah, he's in the ballpark. Let's say it's around $1.3 trillion, okay? So if our deficit's $1.3 trillion, that means we could cease every activity the federal government does. We could lay off every federal employee. We could do all of these things except for the major entitlement programs, interest on debt, and we would still have a deficit. So we've got to make sure that these programs are there for the people that we promise them to. And one thing that makes America great is the rule of law, property rights. In business, you've got to make deals on a handshake. And we've made a lot of...
Sir, I'm sorry. Is that the way that we uphold those programs? Is that, do we keep them as social trust funds like we have them now? Or do we...
Well, they'd be a social trust fund in name only. It's not like the money's sitting there because the trust, they've been rated. So if we keep them the way they are right now, people are going to keep robbing them. They're going to go bankrupt. What we have to do is we've got to ensure the programs are there for the people that are depending on them. We've got to make sure that funding mechanism's there. We've got to make sure that actuarially what we promise people is going to be there. Right now, that's not the case.
He's got a question right here.
Let me go a different direction because he asked a similar question. But
Okay.
Along that same point, people in power often ask the greatest sacrifice from the people who have the least to give. And so my initial question was, what will you do to ensure that there is that social safety net? Because there are so many people in Southern Illinois that are heavily dependent on those social programs. But I think you kind of addressed that. So going towards the issues with, Egypt and Libya, do you not think that supporting dictatorships in other countries might generate some resent amongst the population there against the United States?
Well, I don't know. You tell me. So Egypt, you support a dictator, quote unquote, and they're mad about it. So now they've got a democracy, and what did they do yesterday, or the day before? They raided our embassy. So now we go over to Libya, and it's supposedly a democracy now, and our ambassador gets killed, and 3 other Americans get killed. So that might be a broader problem than whether or not it's a dictator or not. I think that the problem goes a lot deeper than that. I think that we've got to get a little bit more direction in terms of foreign policy, and I've got to make sure, and I think we need to make sure that the countries out there, whoever's leading them, however that government is formed, that they're a friend and an ally of America, and they promote the same fundamental beliefs and principles that we promote.
Okay.
Mr. Plummer, what's your stance on federal support for higher education pertaining to things such as loan and grant money?
I think it's a tool that's been there for a long time. It's a tool that a lot of folks have benefited greatly from. It's probably been a real economic boon in terms of these folks graduating because they've had the ability to go to those schools and then go out and do great things. And so it's something that we need to make sure is there. It's also something we need to make sure that we use.
Yes, sir.
Coming from someone who also drills out at Scott and sees the expenditure that the military is wasting, what would you do to cut back on military spending and save some of that debt?
I don't think that our real problem is defense spending. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's not fat in any budget out there. If you get into any budget out there, including in the private sector, you're going to find fat. But I think that You know, if we utilize as with sequestration right now, which is a very frightening prospect. I mean, if sequestration goes through right now, we're gonna have the smallest standing army since World War II. We're gonna have the smallest standing Navy since World War I. We're gonna have the smallest strike fighter force in the history of the United States. And if the last 48 hours didn't wake people up to how volatile the world is, I don't know what will. While the Russians grow their military, while the Chinese grow their military, while there's confusion and craziness happening right now in the Middle East, I don't think now's the time to be taking a meat axe to our defense budget. That being said, there's things that have to be done, there's things that need to be addressed, and you know, I'm not a big believer in sacred cows. I think people need to, you know, when someone gets money, and I don't care what agency, what group they're with, they need to justify the expenditures on behalf of the taxpayers. Are they spending that money wisely? Is there a return on the investment? And we need to make sure that's happening.
Well, Mr. Plummer, we're at the time scheduled for our adjournment, so I want to allow you a minute to make a few closing remarks, and then maybe you'll have a few minutes to stick around and answer any questions that people may have afterwards. So, your final thoughts.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everybody being here. Look, I tell people all the time, this election cycle is too important to sit on the sidelines. I truly believe that in my heart. By being here today, you guys show you're not going to sit on the sidelines. I encourage people to be involved, to be engaged, to come to events like that. You know, I'll show up anywhere, talk to anybody, because the issues are that important. And I think at the end of the day, I'm on the right side of the issues. You might disagree with me sometimes, but I think at the end of the day, you need to have someone that's going to go out, meet with voters, talk to voters, and represent those voters. And this opportunity has been great. I hope we get to talk for a while. But folks, at the end of the day, if you look what's happening in this district, and if you look at what's happening in this congressional district, the unemployment rates, the poverty, this is the poorest district in arguably the state of Illinois. If you look at the household incomes, if you look at this district, and we're sitting on a gold mine. We're in a great geographic location. We got good, hardworking people. We've got SIU Carbondale. We've got Scott Air Force Base. We've got tremendous opportunity, but the policies in Washington, D.C., and in Illinois, they're facing kind of a double whammy because it's the policies in Springfield. They are hammering this area. And so we need to send people to Washington and understand how we're going to turn that around. I think we also need to send people to Washington and tell people where they stand on the issues. I mean, where I come from, a lot of these issues aren't things to be dodged. I'm not one that gets in front of you and gives snarky answers. I want to answer your question. I don't care who you are. And we need people that are going to get in front of voters and talk to them. If they're not going to talk to, if I'm not going to get here, if I'm not going to come here and talk to you and answer your questions when I'm asking for your vote, like I said before, what kind of congressman am I going to be? You think I'm going to care once I'm in office? And I am a candidate that has crisscrossed this district. I've got a debate tomorrow with Paula Bradshaw, right? Live debate, unedited, live debate with Paula Bradshaw. The other guy won't show up. I've been offered 16 debate requests. I know he has too, but he won't show up to all but just a couple, 2 or 3 of them. That is ridiculous. This country is going off the rail because the American people are not being represented. The special interests in Washington are being represented. And we need to send people to Washington that are going to represent the entire district. Not one industry, not one county, not one group of people, and not one political party. We need to send people that are going to work across the aisle, it's going to work up and down the ballot to bring good things back to this district. I think I'm the candidate to do that. And I hope you all, as David said, some of you might be looking to get involved. I hope you all get involved because I think the next 54, 55 days could be the most consequential 54 or 55 days this nation has seen in a very long time. So appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mr. Plummer, for being in the arena. Tell you about the moment. We thank you all for coming and hope you can make the third and final candidate for Congress from this district is Paula Bradshaw. There's a flyer back there about her appearance coming up in about a week or so. So thank you all again for being here.
Excuse me, picture for a caption. I'm a student. You're a student also?
I'm not a student. I'm a political.
I'm a student. I use for captions
No, I mean, you can't spell it. I mean, like, just give me a minute. I'm still working. Like, what? I'll carry
We hang out a lot together.
With the opportunity that exists in Illinois, in this race, you have to, because you have to get out of here.
Yeah, I got 2 more events.
I know. All right, well, thank you.
No, I appreciate it very much.
I know very eager to talk to you, and so he used to run the
Okay, thanks again, Mr. Plummer.
Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. What's your name? Yeah. Go back.
Not all of them. I'm just some are. We employ some.
The others, you know why they are.
What's that?
I know you said some of them are,
They get great benefits. Hey, good to see you. 2 Plummer. How you doing? Fine to see you. Appreciate it. Guys, appreciate y'all coming out today. It means a lot. Yeah, what's up, buddy?
So recently there was like maybe question. I think I don't agree. And I was more like, what you're saying, you don't get it.
Like something that needs to be addressed. If you look at what's happening for a variety of reasons, and we need to make sure that kids are dependent on this right. So we got to make sure the city that takes place there's a good return on the investment and support. Some people decide to take care of other things and support to take care of somebody. We're talking about elementary school or high school or colleges. Oh, really? I like this. Thanks for being here, buddy.
You know, is there any way I can help out with
Give us a call, and I'm going to put you to work. Call, you can call us, or if you call this guy, just tell him I gave him, I gave you his number. Talk to Terry here. Terry's involved with the local party. Yeah, and she, you live here in town? She can definitely get you. Hey, I'm curious.
I'm actually a post-graduate college this year. So I was just going to give you a heads up that I'm having difficulty with my advisor. So what's going to happen is I might potentially bring the media in. So,
yeah, well, or you can maybe talk to David. You know, David's very involved in stuff. He can maybe help you. And he's not a partisan guy, but he knows everyone at the school. So he'd be someone to talk to. I'm sure he's still running around here.
yeah, I was talking to Professor Bean, and he's been every single week he's getting me.
Find David and talk to him. If he can't help you, give me a call, and we'll find someone down here.
Yeah, it's been, that's a liberal school.
You give me a call if you can't, if they can't help you.
Yeah, I'll keep going on here.
Hey, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
You both can have courtesy of not deciding before the time. So you got to win these. And I actually don't have a TV, so no, I haven't seen any attack.
I respect that very much. I tell people all the time, the Republican nominee for Congress. aggressive about it. So if you send people who blindly loyal to one thing or another, you're not going to get a lot of conflict. So I appreciate the fact that you're open-minded.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm volunteering for the Democrats. I'm in the office making calls. They get my labor, but not necessarily my vote. So you got some convincing to do. I'd like to talk to you again. Next time I see you.
I appreciate it.
Jason,
Where are you from?
St. Clair County. Not yet. I got to pass the bar in October.
Well, you know, my brother-in-law is attorney too, so he and I, we have a lot of conversations.
Nice to meet you.
We got actually this Saturday is hey, here he is right here. He might be able to point you in a good direction. Oh, not you. I'm sorry. He was asking me something else. Yeah, actually, where do you live? Oh, you live down here.
Oh, yeah, I go to school.
Sorry, it's pretty sloppy. I don't have a hard service. But this weekend's actually a really busy weekend in terms of parades and stuff. If you give this guy a call, he coordinates all that for me. It's George Dagley. That's his phone number. His email is just george@jasonplummer.com. Okay. Yeah, so shoot him an email and we'll get you involved. Thanks, folks. Hey, thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
I'm curious, what subcommittee are you going to try to get on when you
We got to make sure we get there first. But, you know, there's a lot that's very relevant to the district. So, you know, if you look at, Armed Services, Transportation Committee, Ag Committee, Energy and Commerce, I would say those four are very relevant to the district.
just kind of try to fit in where accountability can be in the transportation?
Well, a lot of it depends on, how many folks from each party are there, how many folks from the state of Illinois are there, and all that. So there's all those variables. But I'd be honored to be there. But the nice thing about that one is if you're on that one, you can be on others as well. So something that's relevant to the district. I don't want to be on some random,
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to get things done that way.
Good. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Guys, appreciate y'all being here. Good to see you guys. You okay? Yeah, very good. Did I welcome you up? I appreciate that. You weren't dancing like you didn't dance. I think he had like the tab something on. Could you hear? Yeah, I did. Oh, did you see that in the magazine?
I saw you, I was interning.
No, they're ridiculous.
So we got decimated, so are you gonna bring us a
We
few
won't get
runs
decimated.
next summer? Absolutely.
All right. I can pledge that to you. Thanks for coming out, guys. Appreciate all you guys do. You guys say, if you need it, thanks for coming out, guys.
I have actually a question. Do you consider yourself a member of the Tea Party?
What's that?
Do you consider yourself a member of the Tea Party?
The Tea Party? Well, I don't know. The Tea Party, they do some good things, but there's some things I don't agree with. So I don't really consider myself a member of any one group. I'm kind of my own person. We need to send more people to Washington that don't kind of put themselves in this group or that group or that group. They're willing to work across aisles. Appreciate you.
Military spending.
The what?
The military spending.
Military spending what?
At Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Seriously, especially with the Illinois military, right? I think I was talking about unnecessary military spending, but what is your take on Illinois, seeing as how it's already underfunded and that we can't even afford the exercises that we need now because we're not getting the money?
I told you there's a lot of places to save money, and I don't think we should be balancing the budget on the backs of the men and women in uniform. And if that's what the folks in the state of Illinois are doing, you need to probably talk to my opponent because he was involved in that. So, he would have been the one doing some of those things.
Well, I understand where you come from, but it's like, the state, and so I was like,
Yeah,
if you do get elected, like, what is your take? If you get
It was the state.
that budget.
It was the state, right? But the budget was done by who? Who did the budget in the state of Illinois?
The state did it.
Right, but the
They
state.
fill the funds.
Right, but then who did the budget?
We had allocated for all.
That was nice of him.
But the budget was done by the Democrat Party in the legislature, by the Democrat governor, who my opponent was a major donor to, and who my opponent was appointed by. So if he had a beef with what the legislature or the governor was doing, why was he such a strong supporter of it?
Okay, so what do you plan on doing to fix that, though?
I'm running for federal office.
You know whoever the police is.
All right? Appreciate it. Yeah. See this guy here? Yeah. Did you tell him?
my former students at U of I.
This is
Oh, really?
This is one of my ROTC instructors.
Oh, really? Oh, great. We get a good picture.
Yeah, that's good. That'll be
Growing up.
Can you talk to Salisbury?
He's getting married in October.
Macadon just got back. Oh, did you work? Yeah, he just got back. Nachowitz, is still there. No, everybody's doing good.
So happy when I saw your picture, I ran around the office telling all my coworkers, he's growing up.
I'm gonna get you on your way. Keep doing well. Thank you. Do that. Do that. Appreciate it. Good seeing you. What do I get? I appreciate you coming. Yes, no, I appreciate you coming out. It means a lot. Thanks for being here. Thank you. Take care of yourself. I hope you play on the old line somewhere.
Where's your driver?
She's coming. Okay. She's saying about that.
Yeah, I tried.